like ghost gun sounds scary, and it's like when you would talk about like an AR-15, like when you peel back the layers of the marketing and the branding of it, then you realize what you have is a gun that shouldn't be used in a crime anyway.
Yes, it's guns. These have been around forever. I mean, they're basically just guns with obliterated serial numbers. That's all they are. But they figure out ghost gun sounds really fancy and scary and surreal. Oh, we got to get rid of the ghost guns.
Cracking down on ghost guns is not going to reduce crime at all. Over the last decade, only 2,500 ghost guns were used in criminal activity. So you could ban every single ghost gun right now, and you wouldn't drop the crime rate 1%. If I were a criminal and I was watching the president today, I'd say, he has my vote.
Okay, I might have to apologize for having mocked Jesse Waters in the past as being a dunce without any talent or any apparent reason for being on broadcast TV. He makes a good point there. Only 2,500 ghost guns have been used in crimes. So clearly that's not a problem. Only thousands of them have been used. He said that stat to persuade you to not be worried about ghost guns. What a smooth-brained idiot. Anyway, it's not even 100% true. The Justice Department says more than 23,000 firearms without serial numbers were reported recovered by law enforcement during potential crime scenes from 2016 to 2020. That's just a 4-year period. 23,000 firearms that can be classified as ghost guns. But the video that you just saw came about as a result of something Joe Biden did earlier this week. So he is changing the regulations on these ghost guns. And look at how whiny Fox is as a result of it. They hate the fact that it'll be a little bit harder to get a gun that you can use in a crime that can't be tracked in any way by law enforcement. Fox News loves to pretend that they support law enforcement, wants their job to be made impossible to do. But in case you're not familiar with ghost guns, I want to give you a little bit of information. Joe Biden announced federal regulations that will target privately made firearms that can be assembled from do-it-yourself kits purchased online or in a store. The weapons lack serial numbers, which makes it difficult to trace the owner. That's how you generally do that. Under current rules, the ATF doesn't consider them firearms. Like even though they're firearms, they don't consider them firearms, meaning they aren't subject to the restrictions placed on weapon sales, including the requirement that buyers undergo a background check. But once they're assembled, a process that can take as little as 15 minutes, ghost guns operate exactly like regular guns. And these rules have been in the works for a year. They clarify that the unfinished parts sold in these gun kits, such as the frame of a handgun or the receiver of a long gun, will qualify now as firearms under federal law. So yes, like it is an amazing position to think that loophole, closing it, that's a bad thing. But they had to go to bat. They have to be against all gun control, no matter how common sense.
Yeah, and this is, by the way, after there just was a shooting in New York City, right? It's weird that this is the angle that they're taking. And it's not surprising, but it is strange because it seems a little inconsistent, but it's like a weird form of gaslighting to say something like, oh, there's only 2,500 of these out there, or whatever he said. 2,500 sounds like a lot to normal people, but if it's framed that way, then they're like, oh, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it is only 1%. And that 1% doesn't mean anything to people because of the COVID deaths. And we realize that they didn't understand how percentages worked when you're dealing with large populations, right? So all of this is like the bare minimum that Joe Biden could do, right? This is just dipping his toe into the pond whenever it comes to gun control and all things related to gun control. And they're mad about it, over 2,500 potential guns. And I mean, they have to convince the public too that Joe Biden is being irrational in doing so, that it's not actually going to make a difference to a problem that they don't even acknowledge is a problem. So even if they did though, they don't have any solutions. So all they can do is criticize the people who are trying to get something done.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, if it doesn't, look, so, but again, you framed it very well. This might not stop much crime. Then, but why are you against it though? Wouldn't you want us to be doing everything we can to stop crime? You pretend that you're against crime. And think about the stakes.
I do.
So this might stop some crime. Okay, but now if I buy a kit, they'll be able to potentially track it like they can with literally every other firearm. This will produce quality finally amongst firearms. Why would a person who buys regular firearms want this other class of guns to not have the same regulations? And then think about who potentially would be purchasing these? So as some people are saying, they might just be Lego freaks that also love guns, I guess. But I don't know, maybe they want a gun that can't be tracked. Maybe they don't think they can make it through a background check. Maybe that's a loophole that's worth closing. But they don't even make the case for why this shouldn't be done. They just whine around the edges of it. That's all that it is. Again, it's why this is not news on Fox News. It is petulant grievance farming. That's all it is. So what will the change actually produce? I'm gonna tell you, and you tell me if this is unacceptable. Commercial manufacturers of these kits will have to be licensed. Bear in mind, they're making guns. Perhaps they should be licensed. They must add serial numbers on the kit's frame or on the receiver so that they can be tracked if a crime is committed. Commercial sellers of the kits will have to become licensed and will be required to run background checks on potential buyers before sale, just like they do with all commercially made firearms. Now, beyond that, he wants the sale and possession of ghost guns to be made illegal. He is saying that Congress has to do that. Biden is not doing that individually. I'm sure they'll have a problem with that because Fox News doesn't want to live in a world where you can't buy a kit online that lets you kill someone without going through a background check. And so anyway, it will be a little bit harder. There's still, people are talking about 3D printing. People 3D print these ghost guns. There should be regulation on those sorts of, I guess, files that are necessary to do that printing. But I just want less people to be killed by untraceable firearms. I guess I'm a radical. Any other thoughts, right? Yes.
No, I mean, it's just impressive a little bit. Like, you know how people who lie, you can usually tell that they're lying because they can never keep up with their own lies. And eventually they stick their own foot in their mouth. I don't know how the anchors over at Fox News and the people who watch them and kind of parrot their ideas, I don't really know how they keep up with whatever they're supposed to believe because there's no consistency there, right? It's illogical, the things that they believe. They want to be tough on crime, but they also want ghost guns available to the public with little to no regulation with it. So it's kind of impressive, but also really terrifying. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. They have to be pro-gun. They like to pretend they're against crime. They like to pretend they're against people murdering cops with untraceable weapons that they got via not having to have background checks. I feel like at some point you're gonna have to choose between those. Anyway, the gun lobby, by the way, hates this too. I don't even understand that. Most of the gun lobby is made up by corporations that have to abide by these things. The world makes no sense, but I do know that the status quo produces a lot of needless death via guns, and I think something should be done about that.